buddy?
You got audio.
Yeah, okay.
Rutsky's got audio.
All right, we're all good. Well, it just...
Dude, Mongo's got audio. All right, we are
Huque. I think it's Huque. That's Spanish.
Dude,
it's Mexican.
That's right. Because it is our Cinco de Mayo episode.
I'm drinking beer again.
We were drinking beer again. Very
Happy
excited.
looking forward.
So, we're back, everyone.
Here we go again on our
And
own.
we're going to try this one more time. So, yet again, crack open your Negro Modelo.
And if you happen to have a Negro Modelo and drank it all while we were messing with all those technical problems, that's okay. Have another.
Pour another
we'll allow
one,
it.
raise another toast to Montezuma
Yeah.
and Hernando Cortez and the end of the world, which is right around the corner.
That's right. So, Bono, you're going to have to roll with
I'm going
the
to have
trivia.
to roll with the trivia. In the year 2003, Mexico surpassed what European country to become the largest exporter of beer worldwide?
This is actually cool because I know the answer to this. I was reading it just earlier today, and it is Corona with a slice of lime.
That might be correct.
That is correct.
So
if you go to www.bonoiswrong.com/trivia, you will know the answer to this question is totally correct. Oh, there it is. The May 3rd, 2010 trivia question. So that is our answer, everybody.
All right. So everybody knows now that Corona with a slice of lime exports more beer than the entire country of Mexico. Any news?
Yeah, there's some news. We just did a big brew over there in the Cap and Hair
That's
Club.
right. How did the Big Brew go?
Big Brew went wonderful. Steve and Vicky were gracious hosts, and they brought out the full-scale system. We actually needed so much extra brewing that the Big Brew system itself wasn't enough, and they boiled off extra wort in somebody else's side rig. Basically, Nick Goodman brought his rig up there, so that was pretty cool.
What was the style?
The style was a robust porter, which is awesome.
That's a favorite of mine.
Yeah,
I wish I could
really
have made
good
it
stuff.
out.
And so we got 4 gallons of that, in addition to 10 gallons of beer that Bono and I made on our own that just got into kegs from their fermentation vessels yesterday.
So we've got here at the brewery, we've got 5 gallons of that robust porter, we've got 5 gallons of Irish Red,
Yep.
and we've got 5 gallons of English IPA. So if you're in the area,
The English IPA is well known by the people who had the first batch as the Limey Tart.
the Limey Tart,
And this our new Irish Red recipe will be known as Scottish Red.
Scottish Red,
And so that's...
in honor of the Scotsman who drew up the recipe.
That's right. And they tasted good going into the keg, so good. And
I'm really looking forward to having those.
we paid a lot of attention to sanitation, which is what we're going to be talking about today. When we're transferring from one vessel to another, we
Sanitation was kind of an Achilles heel here at Dogleg for a little while. We had some sanitation problems, and it took us a while to hunt them down. So this is something that we're fairly intimately familiar with. And let's get some feedback on the beer, David. I think you said that you've been trying this here at home, and I was pushing my dad to go out and buy a 6-pack, but I haven't even really seen him on the chat tonight.
It's a fantastic style of a beer.
This is a great beer.
It's very rarely brewed, this style of beer. Basically, it's a Vienna lager. Am I right on that?
I believe that is the case. Yeah.
It's just really good. It's one of those gentle sipping beers aside. It's one of those nice, quaffable, you can chew it down. It's just made to be drank in giant gulps.
It's just so crisp.
Yeah.
And I mean that malt flavor is just...
You don't get the traditional Corona or Tecate butter and corn flavor. You don't get the popcorn from this beer at all.
Right.
It's really clean, it's really crisp. It's well lagered. They don't sell it before its time. Served in dark bottles like it should be. And it's got the special beer bottles. It's really neat. They do their own special bottles. That's cool. And we've had some other Modelo products like that. What was that, Barista or something like that we could only get, or Barrilito, that's what it was. Remember my buddy Felipe brought back from Mexico that they only sold in Mexico.
Yeah, I don't think I was around for that, actually.
Yeah, I drank it all. It was really good. So
I think, unless we have anything too exciting, I know that we have we wanted to bring you pictures from the reconstruction of the Rahr Brewery roof tonight, but our technical problem, our affairs with our technical problems kept us a little bit longer than we were expecting. So
we'll mess with that another day.
yeah, we'll bring you.
No
something
big deal.
next
Their
week.
roof's going up one joist at a time, so they're doing a good job with it. It's a very cool process to know that their brewery is getting rebuilt at the same time that our brewery is getting rebuilt.
It's like we're the same brewery,
It's pretty close,
only with vastly different scales.
right? And their beer is good. But other than that,
So in brewing, cleanliness is, after all, next to godliness. And if you don't keep your area clean, if you don't keep your tools, your fermenters, if you don't keep your stuff clean and sanitized, you're just asking for trouble, because bacteria and all kinds of nastiness can seep its way in there.
so we're saying if you really want skunky, everybody's opened a skunky Corona or a skunky Miller or something like that. If you really want a skunky beer, take a glass bottle, a clear glass bottle of anything, especially a really light beer like Corona, and take that beer, put it on your fence post, leave it sit 90 degrees plus temperature for about 3 days, then go open that beer. You won't even have to taste it. When you open it, that smell will be so overpowering. And it's one of those things that if you actually pour it in a glass and you let it sit and you let it evaporate, that smell will go away and the beer will taste okay. But most people don't have the patience to let their beer warm up, and so the smell is bad.
So
the smell that's bad goes away.
So one way to avoid a lot of these flavors, and some of this is going to come from oxygenation, which is something we're going to cover in a later episode. But what we're going to talk about tonight for avoiding these unpleasant flavors is sanitation, because it's so important when you're brewing your beer. And you're going to be using a lot of different materials in your brewing tools. You're going to be using wood for stirring, or maybe sometimes for aging your beer after it's already been fermented. You're going to be using metal quite a bit. You might have one of those big fancy stainless steel conical fermenters.
Yep.
You're going to be using plastic, and you're going to be using glass probably. So
Vinyl hose. You got lots of different.
yeah, and so each of these materials has different properties that you need to be aware of, specifically wood and plastic, because wood and plastic both have lots of crevices, lots of little holes and cavities for bacteria to hide in, and that's something that you have to be aware of. And anytime, like let's say you're going to take out a primary fermenter, you've got a big plastic primary fermenter that you bought at the store, you need to make sure that you're inspecting that thing very carefully, because like one little scratch down the side,
Yep.
and bacteria can hide in there and can get out of the sanitation process quite easily.
Yep.
And completely ruin. I had a batch of beer completely ruined, and when I went back and looked at the primary, there was a little scratch down the side, and to this day I'm convinced that that's what caused it.
Yeah. And we don't use plastic in our fermentation, and we don't recommend it to anybody. Just for that reason, because essentially any good brewer who uses plastic, and there are a lot of really good brewers who use plastic, will replace theirs every year. So most of the new brewers who use plastic have the replacement vessel that somebody goes, yeah, you can have mine.
Exactly. They put it on Craigslist for $3, and you think you got just a fantastic deal.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of those things you got to be careful about. You really can't get a bad glass vessel unless it's got a crack in it, and that's hard to
That's difficult to hide.
Mm-hmm. But we use all glass, and that makes a pretty big deal in this process. Makes it really clean.
Now you are going to use wood during the brewing process. Specifically, you're going to use wooden spoons, but you really want to avoid wood during the really delicate time of the brew after you've cooled your wort and before you've pitched the yeast, because that's when your brew is the most delicate, and just about anything can sneak in there. And wood, just like plastic, and I think wood more so, it's going to have a lot of cavities and crevices for bacteria to hide out in and just hang out and wait to completely ruin your beer.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
So, a lot of people, and Matt, I know that you've done this out there. Yeah, I know that you've done this out there in North Carolina. Is you aged one of your beers on sandalwood. So I don't know exactly how you did it, but when you are going to age a beer in wood, the best bet is to sanitize using liquor.
You can do that. You can burn it.
You can burn it.
You can char it with like a
and that's going to give you a different flavor.
It will.
It
if
really
you char it
depends.
till it's changed color, definitely.
Right.
It'll give you a more.
Can you boil it? Can you put it in boiling water? What would that?
I don't know about that.
I mean, that might be worth trying.
It's something you could do, but you've got to understand that you'll be introducing that distilled boiled water into the next vessel, which is okay if you do it completely sanitized. If you do it with whatever tongs or whatever you use to put it in the next vessel is also sanitized, I don't think there'd be any problem with that.
And then once again, notice that even what you use to take it from one vessel to another has to be sanitized, because just that little bit of bacteria can completely ruin an entire batch of beer.
It's amazing. When I started brewing, I was amazed at how much I cleaned. And
it's
it
ridiculous.
actually, when I was in college and I did my first Mr. Beer, I was back note to it. It's something that my sister had gotten me for Christmas or something. It sat on the shelf for a couple of years. And then my roommate was like, dude, let's do this. And I started reading the instructions. And I was like, that's too much cleaning. I'm not going to do that. So he ended up doing it. I helped him. But, man, all that bleaching and rinsing and everything, it was brutal.
Yeah, but it's 100% worth it.
Oh yeah,
when you can crank out
and then
just really good beer time after time, and not worrying about it going lactic or vegetal.
And that's another big issue. The time it takes to brew your little 2-gallon Mr. Beer is the same time, if not more time, than it takes you to brew a 10-gallon all-grain batch once you get your system going. So when you're talking about cleaning and the rewards for your time spent in there, it can make. I mean, when you're getting 2 gallons out of there, you're talking what? That's 20 beers.
Yeah, something like that.
It goes. That is a lot of effort for 20 beers. But when you're doing it and you're getting 50 beers and getting 100 beers,
and then once you start kegging, the effort to beer ratio just plummets.
Well, I wish that stainless steel kegs weren't going up in value so much. These Cornelius kegs that everybody had used,
getting very expensive.
I've ordered a couple here recently that were retrofitted and they came cleaned out and had a little bit of sanitizer left in them, and that was just fantastic because I was able to just essentially rinse them and go. And if that were the case, and if I could still get one of those for $20, I don't think I would ever clean anything. I would just order them all brand new and sell them on Craigslist after I use them.
So we kind of accidentally discovered and purposely discovered one use for liquor, but we kind of accidentally discovered a really cool use for liquor a few years back, and that was we had been using Everclear to sanitize bottle caps.
Yep.
Well, we were out of Everclear, and so we went and dug through the liquor cabinet and dug up some whiskey. So we said, whiskey it should do the trick. It'll do the same thing. And it did. It sanitized the bottle caps. But Kyle, do you remember what happened to the whiskey cap? The whiskey caps have been soaked in whiskey, or the bottle caps that have been soaked in whiskey.
It definitely. There was enough of it there to impart a little bit of that whiskey flavor in there. It was maybe we didn't do a good enough job shaking out the cap or something. It just fell into the glass. But you're talking a small amount, and it made an impact in the flavor.
And really, it was as if they had been soaked in whiskey.
Yep.
And the flavor was amazing. I forget what the style was, but it lent itself really well to the style.
And we've had some that we dipped in rum after trying that because we were out of whiskey. Amazing Whiskey has another use, which is drinking. And so it was
I heard that from Dr. Strevitt.
Yeah, definitely from Mr. Beam himself.
Yeah, from Jim Beam's only son, Keith Strevitt. And we've also here at Dogleg Brewery.
Don't recommend the rum, by the way. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah, rum is not. That's a Cuban drink. So
yes.
Avoid that.
Mm-hmm. Cuban Rican.
And we've also come up with something really convenient. And this is something that Kyle came up. Did you get this idea from somebody?
I think I don't remember.
I don't know. We picked it up somewhere, and it's something that we highly recommend. Is that you keep a bottle on hand, like a spray bottle, that contains in it a mixture of Everclear and water. So, let's say, for instance, a few weeks ago the wort was cooling. We dropped something in the wort. What did we drop in it? Was it the hop sock?
Yeah, the hop
I think
sock came loose with the heat. Basically, it came the ring came loose.
Yeah, we dropped the hop sock into the cooling wort.
And we didn't want all that schmutz to come back into the beer.
Absolutely not. So we had to fish it out really quick. And so luckily we had on hand, we had
Everwater.
We had a metal spoon, and we had this spray bottle of Everclear and water that we were able to just really quickly sanitize the metal spoon and fish the hop sock out of there.
Yeah, and that helps. I mean, it really does. Having something, because that's they don't use it in hospitals for nothing. You know, I mean, they use isopropyl rubbing alcohol, of
Right.
course, but alcohol will instantly sanitize something at the right levels. And so, yeah, an Everclear, especially, it's a very cheap. You can go in and buy $5 bottle of Everclear, and you cut it 5 times water to, or I think it's 5 parts water, 1 part Everclear, and that's plenty to kill everything. And we had come up with it. That's right. I did kind of have that idea. I looked it up, found it. I was not original, and I found some other posts and people had talked about it and had exact ratios of what you needed, and that was it. It was.
And I imagine at some point in the future we're gonna rehash this topic, because we do plan on doing an episode about handy gadgets and handy things to have around when you're brewing, and that is definitely something that's handy to have around. It's been just immeasurably useful since we've started doing it.
Very much so. And you go through a bottling process and you forget or maybe you go through and you bottle enough and you're thinking you're all good, and then you have 1 bottle cap left and 5 bottles left to fill. Oh crap, you don't want to sit there and stop and allow that warm beer to have a chance to get bacteria coming into it. You'd rather just spray those last few bottle caps, hit it up just enough, and then be done with it.
So, when other methods of sanitation, other chemicals that you might use, the most accessible and probably the most commonly used among amateur brewers is bleach. Believe it or not, I
don't recommend it.
You know,
I never used bleach except for when I was in college.
I used it for a long time, and it's affordable, it's accessible. You know, not everybody has access to Ida4 or Starzan, and we'll get to those 2 terms here in a minute. But you know, if you're just starting out, or if you just don't live in a brew store heavy area, bleach I think a teaspoon to 10 gallons of water is more than enough to sanitize everything you've got. You do have to be careful though, because you have to rinse and rinse and rinse and rinse. I tasted several beers when we were judging, and we keep bringing that up, but we learned so much.
Oh, anyway, and if you're in an area, like we've said before, and you don't belong to a brew club, but you're interested in this, let us know. We'll get you in contact with whatever local brew club there is, because go do a judging. They'll take you in. They'll let you do some judging, even if you really are just a beer enthusiast. You don't know anything about beer. You don't know the styles. They'll help you. They'll walk you through it. You'll learn so much in one day of brewing or of beer drinking, basically. All you got to do to pay your penance is write down on a piece of paper what you think about the beer.
So if you're literate, you can learn about beer. So anyway, I tasted so many beers at Blue Bonnet that had a very familiar taste to me, and I was able to instantly pick them out because they made the same mistake I made when I first started out, and that is that I didn't rinse out the bleach well enough, and the taste is immediately apparent, and it's very obvious. Yeah. But
it tastes oddly enough like bleach.
It's very similar to bleach. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah, it smells like bleach, and that smell comes through, and it tastes like bleach, and it causes me to go, I'm not drinking anymore because I don't want to die.
It makes me go, that's kind of bleachy.
Yeah,
and so far more acceptable alternatives include Ida4 and Starzan, and
Ida4 and Starzan are both great tools.
Very, very well. And
they're cheap.
Frankly, we use them both.
Yep.
And they each have their different uses, I think. Ida4 is an iodine-based sanitizing agent.
Yeah.
and it's something. It does require what, one rinse? I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to, especially if
yeah,
it's something you're
right.
using as a tool.
Yeah.
If you're going to put beer on it, then it doesn't need any. The Starzan, if you're going to put the beer on it, the stuff that Starzan basically is it's a basic cleaner or basic sanitizer as opposed to an acid sanitizer. So the things that are in it are actually helpful with the process of the yeast metabolizing with the sugars in the beer, and it actually is good for the beer. It'll chew up more sugars. It'll help it out. It starts it out. It's a good thing.
Corona with a slice of lime is not, in fact, the country that was eclipsed by Mexico to.
Okay, well, we'll give it. So, which country
do you
was
have, do you have a real guess?
I have to have a real guess at this point.
It's a European country.
It's a European country that was eclipsed.
Eclipsed by Mexico in 2003 as the world's largest exporter of beer.
And I'm going to go with that as Belgium.
You know, I was going to guess Belgium or Germany. Girls, any guesses? The studio audience guesses Germany or Ireland, and the answer is Holland.
Really?
Isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird? Well, that is weird because the number one beer in the world is in Belgium.
Yeah,
and that's Stella Artois.
It's very odd. Now, they were eclipsed in 2003. Stella Artois, I don't remember really coming on strong until the late 2000s.
It is 50% of the beer sales in the world.
Then on Wednesday, you need to stay thirsty, my friends. And always remember that we are not professionals.
So please try this at home.
God, that is awful.
Oh God, that is awful.